Hey HK fans, happy St. Patrick's Day. I thought I would use this week to provide you guys a video from a viewer request on what I use as a mobile armorer's kit. You've already seen a look at my bench through a separate video, but when I'm on the road, whether that's helping a specific customer or teaching a course, I've got to have a kit that goes with me to provide all of the tooling and support I need to affect that change. And that can be whether it's going to somebody's specific residence, helping them out with a project, or if I'm working with a law enforcement department, assisting their armorers getting their guns back up and running, or if I'm teaching my own firearms training course and I've got a student whose gun goes down, I want to be able to affect that that fix right there so they can get back in the training and not have to sit out on the sidelines and miss out. So over the years, I've tried a lot of different products, a lot of different solutions to this, and mine is constantly evolving. But let's take a look here on the workbench and I'll showcase what I currently use right now. So here's what I use as a mobile armorer's kit. It's a rollout bag system. This is actually called the Atlas 45. They make different size bags, but this is one I felt really works well for me. Nicely, it's got a Velcro section here, and of course, you see I put a H&K patch on the end of it. It's got two carrying handles on the top, as well as a sling type carrying handle for carrying it over the shoulder. And once you detach this buckle, the system kind of spills out, as you see here. So the first thing you'll find is I carry with me one of these SP1 kits from my buddy Mark at Present Arms. Really neat system. You've seen this in another video as well. I use these on a daily basis, and basically what it allows you to do is use this to work with your handguns. So once it's assembled, it's got a removable mag post, it's got a little cutout section here, and then I can take the pistol, stand it up, and then I can actually work on the pistol, whereas if I didn't have this, I would need an extra set of hands. I can take parts out, keep them inside this little cutout section so they don't roll off onto the ground and get lost. It just makes working on the handguns much easier. Next, I use a Rollout Mat System. This one's from Lyman. I like this one just because it's a little more durable for rolling up and rolling back out again. And what you can see here with this one is like the ones I use my workbench from Ransom. It's got these nice little raised rib sections for dividing. So again, if I'm working on something, I don't have to worry about a small little roll pin or spring falling off onto the ground and getting lost. And it rolls up easily and stows away. So then what you're left with are 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 large zippered pockets. And obviously you can set these up however you want. We'll go through mine from right to left. Okay, on the first pocket, what I have here is an H&K cleaning kit. I don't know if these are still offered, but they were for a while. I find them pretty handy to keep everything in one. It's got one internal pocket, which has all the different cleaning rod sections, and I keep a 9mm bore brush in there as well as the 5.56 one, because that's what I use most. This one, if you haven't seen these before, this is actually for cleaning out the chamber flutes on a 9mm MP5 style barrel system. So nice to have there. And then there's a deeper section here where I've got some patches, some solvent, a little all-purpose brush, and a silicone rag. So these come in together like this. Nice way to keep it all in one closed section. I've got a Stall Willy parallel punch set, which again, I love the Stall Willy tools, German made. They're expensive, but I've just never had any of these things fail on me. So it's a great punch set, parallel punch set to take with you when you travel. I've got a couple of tools, again from Stall Willy. These two are specific to the MP7 to remove the gas piston section out of the front of the weapon. So I have to have those when I work on those guns. And then I've got the HK kind of multi-tool kit. These came with the UMP and the USC, the G36 style weapons. So I got several of these. I keep one in the bag to go with that. Next, spare parts. This will change with whatever weapon system I think I'm going to be encountering. So obviously I can heavy load it if I need to, but at the bare minimum, when I'm working with MP5 series, which is what I teach a lot of the courses on, I'll keep those high wear items, you know, extra firing pin springs, extractor springs, plus size rollers, roller retainer plates, roller retainer pins, whatnot. So it's good to have a couple of sets of spares or whatever weapons you think you're going to encounter most. I've got extreme weapons grease from Slip 2000. Again, I've talked about this in another video. Really like the Slip 2000 products. I've got a couple of punches here, so if I'm doing a sight swap for a customer or helping realign sights, I can use these. They're aluminum. They work well with a hammer, so you don't mar up the finish on a weapon. Got a nice rag here that I can help, you know, either use clean something up or help protect the weapon itself from getting scratched. Extreme Weapons Lube, again from Slip 2000. That's my preferred cleaner, lubricant, and protectant. I've got some Loctite here as well if I've got to tighten down a screw for a customer. I got a dental pick set, really helpful when cleaning or helping to get access to some of those tighter spots on a weapon that needs maintenance. I've got a small file set here. This one's from Easy Lap. I think I got these from Brownells. These are great for making minor modifications, a lot of times with sights, getting the fitting right. Got a few gun wipes from Slip 2000 and some Fire Clean, just some extra products that have been given to me over the years. And then these are helpful. This is a set from Grace USA. These are parallel punch. I'm sorry, these are roll pin punches. So if you see here on the tip, see there's a little ball tip at the end of this punch, whereas on a regular parallel punch, you'll notice it is flat on the end. Okay, and the difference is if you are working with roll pins, like we see here, and you use a roll pin punch, this dimpled end will actually fit inside the opening on the roll pin, and this will prevent that roll pin from peening over on the sides and getting deformed when you're trying to remove or replace it. So these pins are much more ideal for those things where you're trying to get minimal damage on the pins when you're moving them. So they come in different sizes, really helpful with a lot of the HK weapons. Okay. Next pouch, I've got a long set of Q-tips for those hard to reach places. And then I've got a curved set of needle nose pliers, a straight set of needle nose pliers, and my set for the trigger return springs. So if you've never worked with a trigger return spring on an H&K handgun, you'll find getting those in place inside the receiver can be kind of challenging. Hopefully you can see here there's a little cutout recess in the center, which allows you to, obviously this is not a trigger return spring, but you get the idea, hold that thing securely as you're placing it in there. If you didn't have such a spring or cutout and you just try to use regular needle nose pliers, what would happen when you place force on it is the spring would just slide up the length of the pliers, whereas here it sits and rests in place. So got to have those if you're working on H&K handguns. This tool here from Weha, great tool for anything that requires moving springs inside tight confines, like a trigger group of an MP5 or any of the fire control systems on the handguns. You can see here it's curved, and then it's got kind of a forked tongue like a snake in there, and allows you to get the spring right there in the center and then pry it into place. So got to have one of those if you're working with those weapons as well. I've got a stainless steel kind of bore brush. This allows me to get into those areas where there's a lot of gunpowder caked on, carbon buildup inside the chamber of a weapon. For the P7 series, I've got to have my gas cylinder scraper tool and a gas cylinder brush. And then I carry two different sets of Stall Willy wrenches for different sizes. And where I usually see these come in handy is working with all of the different optics mounts and light mounts that people have on their weapons, so that we can tighten them down when they come loose out on the range. If you're working with any kind of HK roller delayed locking system, you're going to need a set of feeler gauges. So that's what this is. So I can check the bolt gap on any of those weapons and then make whatever corrections are necessary. Moving into the next pouch, obviously Q-tips, patches, can't have enough of those. Rubber gloves, keep myself from getting all gummed up on the range. And then I've got a series of stall Willy wrenches, both flathead and Phillips head, so that I can work on anything that I would need to there on the range. I have just a simple point tip tool here, which comes in handy with some specific jobs as well. And then I've got an HK cleaning rod, and as you can see here, it's got a nice ball end on it. And not only is this helpful for cleaning handguns, attaching you know, an eyelet or a brush to the end of it, but if I'm ever on the range and somebody has some kind of round that's stuck in the chamber, I can use this to clear that out. And it's the big ball end on the end allows me to, you know, put good amount of pressure on the end without dinging up my hand like it would if it was just the metal end on the other side. So I found this comes in handy as well. And then in the last pouch here at the end, you got to have an armorer's puck. You know, this is just a hockey puck with a hole cut out of the middle of it. And what that allows you to do is if you're working on a specific weapon, gets it raised up off the table. And if I've got to remove a pin like this roll pin here that holds the magazine release in place, I can actually tap it out through the hole in there. It'll keep it captive inside the puck laying on top of the table so it doesn't roll off and get lost. But it also allows me to drift that out without banging into the table. If I just laid this down on the hard table and started banging on it, I would just drive that pin right into the table itself instead of out of the weapon. So these come in handy quite often. Good piece of gear to have. This is my preferred punch set. This one's from Renstag. You can get these off Amazon as well. And what's great about these is not only are they different sizes of parallel punches, but they also work by pushing the parallel punch back into the holder. And now what you can do is create yourself a roll pin holder. You should probably use the right size one here as a reference with my example. But as you see, I've just pushed the roll pin or the parallel punch back into the holder, and now I can drop this roll pin right inside of it. So in an area where I'm trying to get a roll pin in a very tight spot and I've only got two hands and I'm holding the weapon and all these other things, now I can use this to relieve the need for me to have a second hand, and it'll drift that roll pin back in place. And because the punch itself is the same diameter as the roll pin, I don't have to worry about hitting any deeper than I need to. It'll go completely flush. It'll stop there. It won't pin it up. So these are great set of tools to have, again, to serve both as a parallel punch as well as a roll pin holder. So got those, and then the last things you'll see in the kit, obviously you've got to have hammers. These again are from Stall Willy. I've got more of a soft type, and then I've got a larger, this is a 200 din hammer. So when I'm working on the guns, drifting out things, I've got those two. And one more item I had in here that you got to have if you're working on HK roller delayed weapons, obviously, is the sight adjustment tool. So this is actually two tools in one. The Phillips head screwdriver on one end to affect the release of the mounting screw on the top, and then the windage screw on the side. And then once you attach this point, now you have the ability to affect adjustments on the rear diopter drum on a MP5 or G3 HK91 style weapon. So you gotta have those as well. And no surprise, I forgot two items to cover that I wanted to share with you because I had taken them out of my bag to use them a couple of days ago working on a customer's MP5 SD. So I always carry these with me because most often I'm working with MP5 weapons, and if you don't have these, they'll prove very helpful for you as well. The first one is the HK chamber face brush, which you can see here attached to a cleaning rod. It has very straight, long stainless steel bristles, and you use this to clean off all the carbon buildup on the chamber face and inside the barrel extension walls of any roller delayed weapon, but specifically I use it most on the MP5s. And as you see here, I've got it attached to a drill, and that allows me to put a lot more force on that process than I could just by turning it manually with my hands. The other item I use quite often is for the MP5SD, and that's the MP5SD barrel port brush. So most people don't even know this exists, and that's why we have so many problems with the MP5SD. People just don't understand the maintenance that's required with that weapon, and the necessity to remove the suppressor itself and clean the barrel. The outside of the barrel gets very, very dirty and can cake up easily. And what this is designed to do is you take the suppressor off, and then you thread this onto the suppressor threads, and then shove this back down on the barrel, turning it as you go down the barrel. And then these bristles will obviously clean off all the carbon buildup on the outside of the barrel, making that cleanup job much easier. Otherwise, you'd be working for hours with a dental pick, trying to angle yourself through the barrel shroud to get access to the barrel from the outside. So if you're going to work on the MP5SDs, you got to have one of these kits. Again, this is from H&K. Well, I hope that video proved helpful and that you learned something. As always, I'm incredibly humbled to be able to share this information and knowledge with you. And if you're looking for H&K service or unique training opportunities, give me a shout. That's what I'm here for. Take care, guys.